Agent Morris with the NSA.
We have identified some very, very interesting anomalous type of aircraft.
Traffic is quite luminous and is exhibiting some non-ballistic motion. Over.
Move very rapidly at any speed or rather any direction it wanted to go. Flag could change and go to the right or the left or go crossways without hesitating a bit.
What do you think it was?
Well, if they call it a flying saucer, that's what it is.
EWA 517, do you want to report a UFO? Over. Negative. We don't want to report.
Look, it wasn't my worst Wednesday night.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us. This is Anomaly Now, straight out of Austin, Texas. I am your host, Miles Lewis. This is the weekly live news and media roundup for the 501c3 nonprofit Anomaly Archives, Scientific Anomaly Institute based here in Austin, Texas. Thank you for joining us. It is Wednesday, December 4th, 2024. I hope you are having a good holiday season as we close in on the end of the year. Always a hectic time of year for most people, filled with so many emotions, and boy, just the world in general filled with all kinds of emotions these days of one variety or another. And congratulations, you have survived Alien Invasion Day yesterday, December 3rd, 2024. Oh, wait. We may not have survived it yet. We'll get to that. So you can go to anomalyarchives.org, or you can go to our patreon.com/anomalyarchives page. We'd love for you to consider joining for free and getting all the latest updates, or you can subscribe via the website, anomalyarchives.org, and get updates on upcoming events, outreach, tabling, our monthly Anomaly Academy Cadet online lecture presentations. Once you join at a certain level, the $10 a month or higher tier, that's the Anomaly Academy Cadet level or higher, you get to participate in our live online monthly presentations and get access to the ever-growing back catalog of lectures and materials, plus just all the other stuff that you can find through our YouTube channel, which is probably where you're watching us, if you're watching us. If you're not watching us, you're probably subscribed through your favorite podcatcher. You can listen to us on Spotify, or you can listen to us through YouTube. We have an audio-only version of the show there, and it's distributed through our Spreaker account. That's Spreaker.com, as well as versions that are over on Headliner and all parts and places in between. Well, lots to get through. As I alluded to, it's a day after the alleged Alien Invasion Day that was supposed to happen yesterday, or according to some people's interpretations. But boy, it's a little complicated and convoluted to try to explain what that's all about. But you can go to our Flipboard at flipboard.com/@anomalyarchives and click through the link there and find thousands of articles that we've been posting there for years and years and years. And boy, there are so many from this past few days, weeks, just since last week's show, including a new page that we created over at the anomalyarchives.org website for Cliff High, the originator of this craziness that is the World UFO Day. So you've probably seen or heard, if you're at all following the UFO UAP blogosphere, references to Alien Invasion Day yesterday. and in the past couple of months. I guess I started hearing about this late, was it October, early November, this idea that somebody had made a prediction that there was going to be some sort of alien invasion happening. Why is that happening? And it has to do with this guy, Cliff High, who, I had not been paying much attention to in a long time. Back circa, I guess it was post 2001 when I first started hearing about Cliff High and his partner in crime, George Ure, who had what was called the web bots, these internet scrapers that were trying to find emotional sentiment on the internet to make predictions that they could base financial decisions about. It's no secret that people in the financial world try to make money off of people's moods as they shift in the economic world environment. And this is kind of the origins of Cliff High's WebBots project and his predictive linguistics efforts. And I, like many people, heard about him because he and others were claiming, wait a minute, he predicted 9/11, September 11th, 2001. He then predicted several other big events. And these weren't events where it's like, oh, you're seeing the intel about people planning these events. He was digging into the wealth of textual information on the internet, the ever-growing source of human written culture, trying to ascertain psychic predictive information. And this fascinated me. If anybody who's followed me these many, many years knows that I've reported on and I've been very interested in parapsychology and precognitive abilities. And there have been so many efforts over the years to try and predict the future based on getting reports of psychics, people who have regular precognitive dreams, prophetic visions, that sort of thing. And my own experience in the immediate wake of September 11th, 2001, was to discover that at least two close personal friends of mine had seemingly clairvoyant, or at the time of the attacks or right before the attacks, in their dreams that morning, outside the scope of them being able to hear information coming into them through their sleeping dream state, images and emotions that clearly had to do with September 11th. And then immediately afterwards, finding so many seeming visions and premonitions that had been writ large on the internet. And of course, there were others that were making predictions as well in the conspiracy community. And this idea, as I was discovering people doing linguistic analysis, this idea of like looking at texts and discerning things from them, whether it be like looking at texts by people you don't know who it's written and trying to discern their gender or their psychological makeup or their innermost thoughts based on telltale signs in their written text. These are things that many people have been trying to do for a long time. And so when I heard about the WebBots project, I was very much interested in this and been fascinated ever since. But over the years, I've heard many times from Cliff High appearing on such shows as, Coast to Coast AM. The Coast to Coast biography for his past appearances says that Cliff High has a patent on computer-assisted reading technology, which allows reading from computer screens at up to 2,000 words per minute, reaching into other areas of hidden potential within language used by humans. He has been developing a system of software internet agents like search engines and other proprietary processing methods to predict future events. The software project, begun in 1997, 28 years ago, captures near real-time changes in language patterns within internet discussions. Then, employing radical linguistic techniques of his own devising, he develops a model which anticipates future events with some seeming accuracy. Now, you can go to Coast to Coast and find links like I have here on the Anomaly Archives webpage, where I've recreated what they've documented about his past appearances and predictions going back. Let's see. It looks like the earliest he appeared was in January of 2004. And it doesn't look like he's appeared there since 2010. And I wonder if this is maybe because he apparently increasingly was spouting radical conspiracy theories of the worst possible variety. And as I've dove back into his oeuvre, he's started a YouTube channel as of, I think, September of this year. And one of the ones from just a day or so ago, he is immediately invoking ethnically specific ideas about global banking conspiracies, if you know what I mean. And that is very disconcerting, if not outright anger-inducing. I'm very sad to see that this is what he has become. Perhaps he's always been that. But anyway, yes, he is the one who apparently, going back many years, has been building on this idea that there's something big coming. And as many skeptics and critics and debunkers would say, it's really easy to, in hindsight, match world events to these very obscure, obtuse, how do you say, just generalized predictions. And all of my experience in trying to look at what he was saying they were getting from this web bot analysis, where it was like trying to read tea leaves. And that is not to say that I don't think that there is something there. But it's very disturbing now to see how many terrible things he seems to believe in. That said, it's been a wild ride, as we show. If you search for Alien Invasion December 3rd, you'll get references to some local YouTubers who've been posting about this, and including Yahoo News has reproduced an article, Spy Cams, Alien Invasion Hoax, Speculations about North Jersey Drone Mystery Runs Wild. This is all on the heels of the increasing quote-unquote mystery drone sightings in the United States, and now over in the UK at joint American-British military bases, and an ever-increasing array of UFO and UAP reports around the world and across the United States. It's just gotten pretty wild and crazy. So I'm going to try to speed through this material here as best I can. There's been this article reproduced over at msn.com from Times Now Digital. UFOs over Capitol Hill in Washington, D.C., ? Fact-checking viral photos. This is another instance where, yet again, misidentifications of IFOs, or in this case, just lens flare phenomenon, are being touted around the internet as evidence of a coming global UFO invasion, or UFOs over the Capitol. In this case here, we have again John Greenwald Jr. Coming in and rightfully pointing out, look, this is just like the mistaken photo from the 1950s of flying saucers, UFOs over the U.S. Capitol that were just lens flares caused by lights on the grounds of the Capitol. This photo of alleged UFOs over the Capitol dome, most recently, yet again, it's just inverted lens flares. But these kinds of articles just create an atmosphere of panic, of craziness, and of the sense that there's something big happening and building. This article from an entertainment website, Dexerto.com. Did Joe Rogan's Trump interview trigger an alien invasion? Viral theory explained. This really is a very dumbed down version of what Cliff High has been saying. And in fact, the vetted journalist, YouTuber, podcaster, Patrick, I think is his name, whose video came up in that Google News search, has done some explication of this 39 days to alien war, December 3rd, and went through some of the past Cliff High web bots related stuff. And this again, this goes back years. Now, there are some very interesting things here, but is it really all that hard to predict this arching idea that basically, apparently, it's really hard to explain Cliff High's explanations of his analysis of this webbot data. But Patrick did a pretty good job over at Vetted podcast, and he found some of these clips of Cliff High being interviewed over the past several years. Nobody else that I'm seeing reporting and pointing out that he is the source of this meme, this campaign, are really pointing out that he's got this terrible worldview involving ethnically specific banksters and that sort of thing, constantly looking out his window and pointing out chemtrails that he's seeing in the sky. Make of all that what you will. But he's also employed psychic remote viewers. And while I am a firm believer in psychic phenomena and the ability of people to psychically grok things distant from them, even in the future or the past, through nonlinear access of the everything, the information of fabric of the universe, you can find a lot of interesting information. And but you can also, as I say, you can retrospectively put the pieces together to justify your past predictions. But here is one of the interesting things that Patrick over at Vetted pointed out, was from the September 14th, 2020 interview that he was doing, where he was speaking to one of the remote viewers that he had employed to try to explicate some of the data that he was analyzing, going all the way back to 2009. And this was a RV session in which you can see here, it appears that there are two people doing an interview, a debate, and that involves UFOs. And I think I see, is that Epstein mentioned there? And the Russian collusion story, yada, yada, yada. And it's all about this idea of somebody doing an interview with Trump. And so when Joe Rogan 40 days ago interviewed Trump, and when that was announced that it was going to happen, that's when I think Cliff High was like, wait a minute, this is all fulfilling the prophecies that I uncovered. And it's crazy. That's why thus you get this article, did Joe Rogan's Trump interview trigger an alien invasion? Yeah, we're in crazy town, crazy times, folks. But I'm going to continue to jump around here because it's to just kind of describe this time that we're in right now, where we've been having these ever increasing mystery drone incursions at American military bases, and now American military bases over in England. And then there just seem to be these flaps, these mystery drone flaps popping up everywhere. We had heard sometime recently, about a year ago, the Langley, Virginia flap of incursions and these other military base incursions. And now there's these ones going on in New Jersey, allegedly. You can also find reports of them happening in Arizona. Actually, there's been lots of them happening in Arizona for the last several years, but they seem to go in waves, actually interfering with military jets at extremely high altitudes. Now, it's really important to realize that there is undoubtedly a lot of misidentification happening here. You can go to metabunk.org, Mick West's site, and you can find a lot of good explication of some of the most recent and past sightings, videos, and photos where people are going, "This is not an aircraft. This is not an airplane. This is not something on the ground in the distance. This is up in the air." And very often, these are misidentifications of simple, mundane objects, airplanes, and the like. And but that, again, there does seem to be something very strange here. In many of these military incursion ones, we're hearing stories of vehicle, car or SUV sized drones. And when the military starts saying that there is actually something happening, I tend to believe them, even as I'm like, well, maybe they're playing up a supposed threat so that for their own agenda, ginning up something out of nothing, so to speak. And I'm going to get to all the implications of this, I think, hopefully. So over here at Yahoo News, this is a reprint of an article out of the Morristown Daily Record. Spy cams, alien invasion, hoax, speculation about North Jersey drone mystery runs wild. Now I've got links in the Flipboard. You can watch various local news reporting on this. It is concerning lots of people. The people who are seeing these things and are unable to identify these mystery objects are concerned. Some are just like, oh, it's weird. It's it's probably nothing. But others are very concerned, and it apparently has attracted the attention of the FBI. So there are now apparently is an FBI investigation as part of this New Jersey flap. But I tell you, when I watch these videos, I inevitably have my Mick West skeptic goggles on, and I see misidentifications of aircraft. Now, some drones can be like aircraft. They can be like, I've seen miniature jet aircraft. I've seen miniature propeller aircraft. Radio controlled airplane reproductions that are smaller scale are a real thing, have been for a long time. Those are drones. But people think about these propellers and they think of them as having a certain sound as opposed to jet engines and that sort of thing. But again, when you hear stories from reputable witnesses, and what is a reputable witness? Who knows? But when there seems to be evidence for large, maneuverable, high-speed, quote-unquote, drones, one has to wonder that this is something that's not amateur hour, off-the-shelf technology. Moving right along, yes, we've got links to videos like this one over at NBC New York. What's with these mystery drones flying over New Jersey from NBC New York? Some of these videos, they just look like standard aircraft, and then others don't. Others really seem very, very strange. And again, the FBI seems to be involved, but some of them definitely seem to be misidentifications of normal aircraft. But who am I to say? Like, I see and hear helicopters and planes flying over our property here in South Austin on a regular basis, and I feel confident that I can identify them. Occasionally I'll see lights that are even further away, and I may not be able to hear anything, and I'm not sure what they are. But so I'm not trying to fault the people who are making these misidentifications. Side note, in the midst of all of this, there was this report from a police officer who had a sighting in Connecticut in 2022 that's made News Nation's reporting. This video of this News Nation report is actually from New Paradigm Institute's YouTube channel. And if it's not, maybe it's this one, but part of this report features a digital CGI recreation, a computer-generated recreation of the police officer sightings by Finn Handley, who has a great YouTube channel. I highly recommend you go check out his computer recreations of people's sightings. He works directly with the witnesses and recreates their sightings. Great stuff. Highly recommend it. Oh yes. Earlier, thank you, Vancouver guy, when I was trying to talk about predictive linguistics, yes, sentiment analysis is what I was trying to think of in terms of the Cliff High analysis, WebBot data analysis, and what other more academic people are doing. But yeah, there's this other orb sighting that it seems like a more classic UFO over the vehicle of the police officer, and then it suddenly appears over across the lake or the reservoir. But this policeman, I believe, also recorded his own video. So part of this news report is a video of that. Make of that what you will, but it's just part of the the information environment that we are enmeshed in right now. I did want to mention Professor Simon Holland's YouTube channel. He's of course covering this as well, being over there in Europe. And, one of the first videos he did is "Idiots, Not Aliens," in terms of these drone incursions over the bases there in the UK. And I think he makes some good historical points here, and that is that back in the day, and it's probably always been going on, but you have these fights between political ideologies and the superpowers, and there have been instances in the past there in England where British citizens who had sympathies with communism and with the Soviet Union or Russia at the time were being encouraged and manipulated by other countries like Russia, like the Soviet Union, to photograph and surveil these British and American military bases at the behest of this foreign power. And these people were caught. And his suggestion initially is that this is the same thing, but that these are amateurs or well-funded, perhaps amateurs. But and again, maybe they're sleeper agents, actual agents as opposed to amateurs, who are perhaps responsible for some of this drone activity. But he is covering this as well. He just recently had an interview today or yesterday with one of the experts who's getting a lot of coverage in the UK about these incursions. And what's really important is so I think most people are focusing on that these drone incursions over military bases are often happening over places where we have nuclear warheads. But one of the things that apparently is not being talked about as much, but is getting some coverage, is that the drones also are being seen surveilling the living quarters of the air crews who operate the planes that fly these nuclear weapons, these bombers, and so forth. And that is pretty disturbing, because then you have if the idea that, well, this is perhaps an overt threat to those people and their families, which if you take them out, then you really disrupted the situation. Now, going back to just the general air of all the crazy, wacky stuff going on. Oh, got to mention old Alex Jones. He recently interviewed, I forget this fellow's name, who goes by the nom de plume dark journalist. A very interesting interview if you can stomach watching something over at InfoWars. But COG continuity of government expert warns record level UAP activity tied to shadow government's plans for a nuclear World War III scenario. Now, this is pretty over the top, but that's what you'd expect, wouldn't you, from old Alex Jones and the InfoWars network. But this dark journalist fellow, is it Daniel List? I forget. He's somebody I've followed for some time, and in fact, I think he was the moderator or host for the MC for the Secret Space Program conference that was held, quote unquote, in Austin, but actually was out in Bastrop many years ago. It's probably 10, 11 years ago. And, he he definitely does some good reporting, even as I would put him into the full-blown wacky conspiracy area. But take that with a giant chunk of salt. Meanwhile, over at sentinelnews.com, UK defense dismisses drone threats despite surge in violations of military airspace. This by Baptiste Friscourt. Maria Eagle, the UK's Minister for Defense Procurement and Industry, responded to MPs' questions about drone incursions into the airspace of military bases on British soil. This is over, like I say, over at sentinelnews.substack.com. And there's just so much reporting on this. You can go and do the reading yourself. But, on the one hand, I don't think people should be getting too worried about this, but one has to wonder where this is going. And it, again, just all goes towards this sense of panic that is being perpetuated across the internet in terms of UFO alien invasion day. This one over at timesnownews.com, which I think is the site that was reprinted by MSN. There was this incident, which I don't know whether it's been debunked, but it certainly got a lot of people's attention. UAP or UFO object sighting at Manchester Airport sparks speculation. There were a series of photos and video purportedly from air crew or pilots at this Manchester Airport over in the UK that seemed to suggest that some kind of spherical UFO was seen hovering just above the tarmac before then zipping up into the sky and hovering there before then departing. Shades of the O'Hare Airport incident, but more again akin to the increase in stories post creation of Arrow and Sean Kirkpatrick, first director of Arrow, talking about spherical UFOs, UAP, this idea that there are in fact spherical drones, but then sometimes they seem to do things that you wouldn't think a drone could do. What made this even more sensationalistic was the reports that the posters of this information, that their social media accounts, I believe, suddenly disappeared. But we are in that age where people are constantly watching and downloading and capturing, and I think that's a great thing. I think there's so many times, there's so many articles that I've found over the years that then years later, decade later, two decades later, you have to go to things like archive.org or the Wayback Machine and try to find reproductions of them, captures of them. But the implication being that this was such important case that the government or somebody was scrubbing the web of this information. Now, I've not heard any follow-up on this case, nor do I don't think I've seen Mick West debunk it, but or his folks over at metabunk.org. But this is, again, just one of the things that's been leading up to this sense of panic and global UFO wave, mystery drone waves all around the globe and across the United States. Meanwhile, the debrief.org is reporting on Canadian MP Larry McGuire urges Canadians to sign UAP transparency petitions, being reported by Chrissy Newton, again over at the debrief.org. And moving right along, you've got askapol.com, this Matt Laszlo fellow who's on the Hill constantly interviewing people involved in the attempts to push disclosure at the congressional level. And he's reporting in this episode 283 of his askapol.com podcast. You can hear audio of him asking about this new Gillibrand bill gives Pentagon authority to shoot down UAPs drones on U.S. soil. Of course, that's been kind of the refrain, is like, well, if these drones are such a threat at these military bases, why isn't our military taking more direct overt action against them? And you've, I'm sure, already heard plenty of the reasons and rationales for that, largely being the idea that it's against the law, or that the debris from such a shoot down would fall on a civilian or their home or some such. Yeah, well, we'll see. We'll see where this goes. Okay, another one from Sentinel News. Group of 15 ufological organizations calls on the European Union to make UFOs a priority. This is from Baptiste Friscourt. In a press release issued on November 25th, the UAP Coalition Netherlands and other groups urge European authorities to tackle the issue of unidentified anomalies head on. Again, just more interest in global disclosure. Of course, Matthew Ford, the person who hosts the, I can't even ever remember the name of the show, sent this to his representatives, written statement of Matthew Ford for the U.S. House Committee on Oversight and Accountability Subcommittees, blah, 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 blah. This is all a UAP thing. Now, interestingly enough, he's talking about past investigative journalism work that he has, of course, interviewed the journalists about on his show. In November of last year, journalists Christopher Sharp, Josh Boswell, and I published a story in the Daily Mail. Oh, what bastion of journalism. Exposing for the first time the CIA's Directorate of Science and Technology Offices of Global Access and its classified UAP crash recovery program. Last weekend, Christopher Sharp published a follow-up article in the Liberation Times providing further detail on how the CIA's Directorate of Science and Technology operates its UAP-related crash recovery and reverse engineering programs through the Office of Global Access and the CIA's Counterproliferation Mission, WCPMC. He goes on to say the head of the Directorate of Science and Technology serves as the primary gatekeeper of the entire UAP Deep Legacy program, overseeing operations such as the detection of UAPs through classified programs, recovery operations, disbursement of recovered craft to government agencies and private defense contractors, and protection of derived off-world technologies. My sources have alleged that blank, the former head of the Directorate of Science and Technology, is one of these gatekeepers. Last year, I revealed that Sean Kirkpatrick, the former director of AARO, had assembled a secret technical advisory group to counsel AARO. Following my story, Dr. Kirkpatrick confirmed the existence of this committee to members of Congress, but refused to disclose the members' identities. As of 2 weeks ago, my sources informed me that this classified advisory board continues to advise AARO. Anyway, I'll provide the link to this. I'm curious to see if there's any follow-up on this. Is this a big nothing burger? Not sure. Okay, so moving right along, of course, there was at this one of the first of the two recent UAP UFO hearings. Michael Schellenberger was one of the witnesses who talked about Immaculate Constellation, and I was going to play these clips here, but you can go to our website and we have a page on Immaculate Constellation that collects a couple of links on this, as well as links to the document that was provided to Congress about this alleged program, including the mystery 12th page that is basically a cover letter from Jeremy Corbell. Now, this is, did I show that? No, I did not. Yes, here's the cover letter from Jeremy Corbell. So let me just pull that down for a second. I'm just going to play a couple of clips here from other shows. Thankfully, there's these other shows that do a lot of the heavy lifting and cover the stuff and help me get my thoughts together on this. But I was going to play this clip from the UAP Studies podcast that recently featured George Knapp, who talked about these hearings and the Immaculate Constellation document. And so thanks to the, now I can't think of the podcast name, Psychoactivo podcast. All right.
These members of Congress, Nancy Mace, saying, we've been told we can't ask questions about XYZ. Told by who? Mm-hmm. Who told you? What questions can't you ask? Not very clear. They had that hearing. They were offered direct hands-on whistleblowers. I can tell you that for sure. They didn't take the offer.
Mm-hmm.
There's that 12-page report that was submitted to the record. Jeremy Corbell is the one that gave it to him. I know because I had read it and helped in preparing them, putting it together. And Jeremy gave it to them the night before. He showed it to Michael Schellenberger. He had never seen it. The committee thanks Michael in open hearing. Thank you for giving us that report. Michael didn't give it to him. He had never seen it before. Jeremy gave it to him. They distorted that. There were people in the room who were watching them so they didn't ask certain questions. They have been unable to get a skiff to take some of these whistleblowers in. What the hell's the problem in Congress members getting a skiff so they can hear sensitive matters? I don't understand it.
Yeah. I don't know. But so I'd heard some, I don't know if I talked about this already on the past show. And I'm not saying that the Immaculate Constellation reports are true and accurate, but it would not surprise me if there is something that has yet to be brought to light, even though Arrow is supposed to be bringing this kind of thing to light. But it's weird that George Knapp would say that because, of course, Michael Schellenberger's article where he came out with these comments about Immaculate Constellation absolutely mention a report. Now, maybe this is all just miscommunication, but his article came out before the hearing, and here's Knapp saying that he had never that Michael Schellenberger hadn't seen it before. And this is just the very beginning. This next clip is just the very beginning of an hour-long interview between Coulthard and Schellenberger about Immaculate Constellation. But
tell me more, sir.
Hey, great to be with you, Ross. Yeah, this is an incredible story. So a new whistleblower has come forward with a written report that this person has shared with some members of Congress and with me. And the report is quite extraordinary. It says that there is an unacknowledged special access program called Immaculate Constellation, which is the parent program, is the language used for exactly what you said: UAP, crash retrieval, reverse engineering, and apparently a very large database of high quality photographs, videos, infrared videos, apparently much more sophisticated documentation of many more UAP encounters than have been released.
So in Schellenberger's article, again, that he put out before the hearing, and he didn't provide this document. So maybe it is true that this is something new, but it's also weird. I swear, I think in that clip before, George Knapp says that he helped assemble the document. There's a lot of strange things about that document, but hey, but in Schellenberger's article, he says, quote, "One of these individuals is a current or former U.S. government official acting as a UAP whistleblower. The person has written a report that says, quote, the executive branch has been managing UAP NHI issues without congressional knowledge, oversight, or authorization for some time, quite possibly decades. And then later, the government whistleblower made their claims in a report provided to authorized committees of Congress and their staff." That's what Knapp was saying as well. "The report shared with Congress says Immaculate Constellation serves as a central or parent USAP USAP that consolidates observations of UAPs and, quote, by both tasked and untasked collection platforms. The whistleblower's report includes 7 categories of evidence, blah, 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 blah." Later, it says the report concludes that the existence of Immaculate Constellation demonstrates the extant capability to detect, quarantine, and transfer UAP and ARV, alien reproduction vehicle, collection incidents before they are observed and circulated within the military intelligence enterprise, thus serving as a means of enforcing internal information security. A former IC official confirmed to public, Schellenberger's news site, the existence of Immaculate Constellation. Quote, "That program is run out of SEC SecDef, Office of the Secretary of Defense." The person said they don't want to acknowledge it's real. Yeah, when you play that intelligence game, when you play the spy game, you are playing with fire, and Schellenberger may be getting burned. We all may be getting burned by fakers and hoaxes. One last thing in relation to the UAP hearing. Martin Willis on his podcast UFO show was doing a memorial for Christopher O'Brien, the animal mutilation researcher, UFO researcher, paranormal researcher who passed recently. A lot of folks I know were on that, including Greg Bishop and Lauren Coleman. But also on the show was the creator of the
Martin, I don't know if I told you this. I'll tell you this.
Excuse me, the Accidental Truth director. I think his name's Ron James, the director of producer of this Accidental Truth documentary. Something he says I just thought was interesting. You know, it's obviously it's a boast on his part, but I'm just going to play that clip here. Hold on.
Martin, I don't know if I told you this. I'll tell you this now. It's very, very exciting. At the hearings, I was with Melinda Leslie and another friend of mine in Washington who's pretty plugged in. And she had run into Congressman Burleson the night before the hearing. Mm-hmm. And he was talking about, you know, he wasn't really sure what kind of questions to ask. So the morning of the hearing, we're texting him questions to ask. And when he came up for his time to ask questions and he asked Lou Elizondo, the first question was the one I wrote about if we were in a skiff, what could you tell me? And Lou kind of dodged that one. But we kept texting him follow-up questions live. And so we texted him another question about Lockheed Martin and Bigelow Aerospace. And when he asked that of Lou Elizondo, Lou inadvertently confirmed that, yeah, Lockheed Martin was the ones that had that material that Robert Bigelow was supposed to get. He's never confirmed that before. And we were able to catch him literally live. We texted him the question. He looks at his phone and he asks it. And it was probably the highlight of the hearing. But I'm sure it's the first time UFO investigators have run a congressional hearing, at least in part, from the back of the room.
Running a UFO hearing, UFO researchers running a UFO hearing from the back of the room, texting to the congressional inquiry people. Yes, it's boasting, but maybe it's true. And I thought it was just humorous nonetheless. Okay, let's see. But all of this really reminds me also of, flashback to 4 years ago in late 2019, 2014, 2019, 2020, and the drone swarms in the Midwest. What's behind the drone swarms in Colorado and Nebraska and Wyoming and all these other states? And what it also reminds me of is, of course, the Robertson panel and the conclusions of the Robertson panel, the infamous CIA-sponsored panel that many people point to, myself included, that was more concerned about the idea of UFO reports flooding communications channels and being used as a way for our foreign adversaries to overwhelm our communications networks and disrupt our ability to respond to an actual invasion. From Wikipedia, they say the Robertson panel. The panel was briefed on U.S. military activities and intelligence, hence the report was originally classified secret, later declassified. The Robertson panel's report concluded that UFOs were not a direct threat to national security, but could pose an indirect threat by overwhelming standard military communications due to public interest in the subject. Most UFO reports, they concluded, could be explained as misidentification of mundane aerial objects, and the remaining minority could, in all likelihood, be similarly explained with further study. Now, I am not a promoter of the Robertson panel's findings, but that really fits, I think, these waves of mystery drones. Now, again, I think it could very well be that there is some foreign adversary aspect to this, and I am frustrated by my believer friends who want to believe that there's something more mysterious to these mystery drone military incursions. Now, maybe there is, maybe there isn't. Yeah. Yes, Vancouver guy. The Robertson panel was right. Oh, is it really? The anniversary of the pre-Robertson panel CIA advisory panel meeting? Well, you would know, wouldn't you, Vancouver guy? UFO report of the day producer. So where am I? Let's see. Oh, sorry. Need to take that back down. And clickety click. You can hear that loud mouse, I'm sure. But what this, like I say, this reminds me of the mystery drone incursions. And, you know, I was just going back through some news reports on this. You know, let's see, large drones over northeastern Colorado, Nebraska cause concern. Reports of groups of drones in the night sky over Colorado and Nebraska began in mid-December 2019, a couple of days into 2020. We know more about them than we did weeks ago. I don't recall any of these ever coming up with anything definitive. But again, a lot of what was seen was almost certainly misidentified craft. But at the same time, you know, these witnesses were like me, probably, that they know how to identify the things that they see going over them on a regular basis. But then some of them seem very strange. Going forward in time, Colorado drone mystery sightings finally might be solved. New drone task force on the hunt for command vehicle in rural Colorado and Nebraska. Lincoln County's sheriff official, quote, "We're desperately trying to figure out what is going on." That from the Denver Post back in January 2020. Theories persist about mystery drones seen in rural region. What happened to Colorado's mystery drones? Here's the thing. Nobody knows. That from late January 2020 and on and on and on. I really don't know what to make of all of this, other than I think, as usual, the 80 to 90+% haystack that is the UFO phenomena. Moving on to other subjects really quickly as I try to round out the show for tonight. We have another memorial for Emily Trim, the artist and aerial UFO witness. Whatever you think about the Rua, Zimbabwe, multiple children UFO sighting case, I'm always saddened to hear the passing of UFO witnesses, people who have had experiences and provided some piece of the puzzle in our attempts to understand these mysteries. And I liked that Gideon Reed apparently helped correct a mistake that was made in one of the photographs for this memorial. Gideon Reed being a skeptic who has put forth the puppet hypothesis for the Rua, Zimbabwe case, which I don't know if it's the solution, but I like it as an idea. But sad to see Emily Trim passing on. Meanwhile, over at ThunderbirdPhoto.com, the actor in the hydroplanic sea serpent of the White Star Line. This is talking about a case of a sea serpent seen at sea that might interest those cryptozoologically oriented listeners, viewers, Forteans, anomalists out there. Hey, is he experiencing sleep paralysis? Then over at Expanding Frontiers, research.org, our friends Erica Lukes and Jack Brewer have done more FOIA requests. This one on UFO author Frank Salisbury. More not flattering information about a past ufologist. Imagine that. Then over at, this is what I already reported on. The 2022 UFO sighting in Connecticut. This is the actual link where the video I was talking about shows Finn Handley's digital recreations of this officer's UFO sighting. And let's see. Oh yeah, I've mentioned, and I want to continue to support historian Greg Agigian's work with his After the Flying Saucers Came, his historical tome on the global UFO phenomenon. This is an interview with him. It's hard, quote, it's hard not to believe he saw something, unquote. Historian Greg Agigian on how UFOs took over the world. This is from a few days ago. And there were immediately things that I probably take disagree with, not least of which is just his assessment of Roswell. As I've said, I am a proponent of the horrific medical experimentation, the Unit 731 interpretation of Roswell. That's a deep dive there, but I do really appreciate Greg's efforts in putting out a more academic tome on the history of the UFO phenomena from a global perspective, especially since he did so many deep dives into archives around the world. I think his book really shows the importance and usefulness of archives. But it's a nice, lengthy interview that you can go find over at msn.com. And oh yes, this is a weird one. Okay, so it's the end of the show. Got to go some weird routes. KOB4 News. This is New Mexico news station. Has a video article on New Mexico tech's fleet of robotic birds, and of course they make the obligatory joke about the birds aren't real conspiracy theory, which is of course an art hoax joke. But there's this company that are literally making drones out of dead birds, taxidermied birds. It's just terrible, but somehow hysterical. Okay, and lastly, everything's a conspiracy, folks. It really is. Back in June, Brian Lunduke focused on some reports that confirmed what he was saying and warning about back in 2016. The CIA, NSA, and Pokemon Go. That's right, folks. That game you were playing with your phone is all part of a CIA plot. It's all designed to create a real-world map of locations. His article starts back in July of 2016. I wrote a short article for Network World entitled The CIA, NSA, and Pokemon Go. While the title was certainly viewed as a bit of over-the-top and conspiracy theoristy, it was really just a collection of, in my opinion, rather bizarre facts that even without any sinister connection were worth documenting. I agree. I am republishing it here with some additional increasingly odd details added at the end, including radio and TV appearances related to this article. Some of the details relating to the exact permissions and capabilities of the Pokemon application have changed over the last few years, but everything else remains correct, factual, and up to date. It just goes into the deep, weird history of this game and the connection to CIA front companies, and the wonderful QAA podcast has a new episode. Pokemon Go to Langley is one of their premium episodes. You have to be a paying member, but I finished listening to this today. It's a really good explication of this. And yeah, beware your phone, folks. Beware this. Beware the monolith that is our phone. Okay, that's going to be it. I swear to God. That's it for tonight. Thank you so much, folks. Really appreciate you tuning in. Like and subscribe and all that good stuff. And let's see. Okay, one last thing from Vancouver guy. What did you say? Psychological flap phenomena. Someone sees some drones, etc. Really saw something. It gets reported in the media, and now everyone is misidentifying stars. Yeah, no, it is. It's a feedback loop. Yes, absolutely. All right, everybody, take care. Have a good night, and be safe. Love the ones you're with, no matter who they are. Take care.